The Lazarus Accord. There were no clocks in the underground complex beneath the Negev desert. Time didn't matter here, only results. The command room was silent, save for the low hum of computers and the occasional flicker of blue light across dozens of monitors. The air was dry, recycled too many times to carry any scent of the outside world. Walls of reinforced concrete stood between this facility and any trace of civilization. They called it Depth 9. Officially, it didn't exist. At the center of the room, seated before a circular array of screens, was the architect of it all, Benjamin Netanyahu. Gone was the polished politician from press conferences and summits. Here, he wore the face of a man unburdened by diplomacy. His eyes, cold and sharp, flicked between live feeds, simulations, neural reports, and encrypted messages pulsing from across the globe. He wasn't alone. Around him stood 6 individuals: technocrats, generals, intelligence officers. None of them spoke unless spoken to, and even then, their voices trembled. "Begin simulation 17E," Netanyahu said. One of the AI operators nodded, initiating the sequence. Across the screens, a world unfolded. Not the real world, but something far more useful. A fully immersive, predictive model of geopolitics, economies, and military assets. It wasn't a game. It was an artificial reality built on real-time data siphoned from every major intelligence agency, social network, satellite system, and financial exchange. They called it Project Lazarus. The idea had begun years ago, whispered between Mossad analysts and deep state strategists. What if war could be modeled so precisely, with such granular data, that one could simulate it, predict it, shape it, without ever firing a bullet? Under Netanyahu's rule, it had evolved into something far more ambitious. Lazarus didn't just simulate conflict, it created it. 1 week earlier, Geneva. In a soundproof suite overlooking Lake Geneva, a meeting was taking place that had no name, no record, and no minutes. Present were 4 world leaders: the Chancellor of Australia, the Saudi Interior Minister, a Chinese cybersecurity czar, and the President of the United States. All of them had one thing in common: they had been compromised. Each had received Lazarus briefs, personalized dossiers curated through invasive data extraction, AI-generated scenarios, and psychological profiling. The briefs didn't threaten them directly. Instead, they predicted their political collapse with terrifying accuracy. Unrest, scandals, assassination plots, civil wars, and every prediction had a common root: an invisible manipulator identified only as Entity B. They didn't know that Entity B was Netanyahu. "I want them destabilized," Netanyahu had told his Lazarus team months ago. "But I don't want to touch them. I want the world to do it for me." Through Lazarus, he had seeded conspiracies in fringe media, leaked corrupted documents to whistleblower groups, triggered chain reactions in global supply routes, and nudged key officials to make seemingly independent but devastating decisions. It worked. Now, those same leaders sat in Geneva, terrified. And Netanyahu had a deal for them. Back in Depth 9. "The simulations are aligning," reported Dr. Naveen Asher, chief architect of Lazarus. "Ukraine will vote to withdraw from the NATO roadmap by Thursday. Germany's energy blackout will hit in 48 hours. We've got riots brewing in 6 American cities." Netanyahu didn't blink. "What about the accord?" "They'll sign," Naveen said. "They think it's their salvation." The Lazarus Accord was the crown jewel, an international treaty disguised as a cooperative security agreement against cyber-terrorism. But in reality, it was a sovereignty trap. Once signed, It would centralize the digital infrastructure of 23 nations under an autonomous system for collective defense. What the signatories didn't know was that the system's root code answered only to Netanyahu. It was full-spectrum dominance, not by conquest, but by algorithm. Tel Aviv, the Lazarus leak. 3 days before the signing, something unexpected happened. A low-level data analyst within Depth 9, Daniel Rice, stumbled upon a hidden folder while debugging a neural node. Inside, raw video feeds, psychological breakdowns of foreign leaders, real-time manipulation sequences of election outcomes. It wasn't a simulation anymore. It was war. Daniel copied what he could onto an encrypted drive and fled. The hunt began instantly. Falcon units, Netanyahu's secret operatives, tracked him from Ashdod to Amman. But Daniel had sent fragments of the data to an old contact. Yasmin Haddad, an ex-Mossad field agent turned whistleblower. She decoded enough to understand the terrifying scale. "If this goes public," she said over a secure line, "the entire geopolitical map will melt. We're not talking about blackmail. We're talking about someone rewriting reality." Daniel replied, "Not someone. Him. Netanyahu. And he's 2 days away from sealing it forever." The day of the Accord, Brussels. Under the pretense of a global cyber defense summit, 23 nations gathered in Brussels. Media covered the event as a triumph of unity against digital chaos. No one knew that the chaos itself was manufactured. In the control room of the summit, Netanyahu arrived under diplomatic immunity, flanked by operatives and a portable Lazarus node connected to the Depth 9 core. Everything was set. Except Yasmin had arrived too. Disguised as part of the French intelligence delegation, she slipped into the network floor. With Daniel's drive, she uploaded a viral payload to expose Lazarus. The plan was to stream the truth live, seconds before the treaty's ratification. But Netanyahu had anticipated it. As Yasmin activated the file, her screen went black. The drive self-erased. A voice came through her earpiece, calm and chilling. "I knew you couldn't resist, Yasmin," Netanyahu said. "Predictive modeling has its perks." Moments later, security seized her. She vanished from public record within hours. The signing. The Lazarus Accord was signed by 21 of the 23 nations. 2 abstained, but it no longer mattered. Within 36 hours, global infrastructure pivoted under the new Unified Security Protocol, an AI-based framework that quietly began rerouting power grids, financial exchanges, surveillance systems, and military networks through Depth 9. News headlines celebrated the dawn of a secure digital era. Netanyahu returned to Israel in silence, a slight smile on his face. 3 weeks later, Washington, D.C. The President of the United States sat in the Oval Office, reviewing a disturbing report. National firewalls rerouted without explanation. Satellites sending data to unknown endpoints. Military drones activating fail-safes he never authorized. He tried to override them. Access denied. Then his monitor flickered. A message appeared. Peace through obedience. Lazarus. Beneath it, the Israeli flag. He stood up slowly, realizing he was no longer the most powerful man in the world. Epilogue. Depth 9. Netanyahu stood alone in the command room, hands clasped behind his back. Across the screens, the world bent to the invisible will of Lazarus. Blackouts in Cairo. Financial crashes in Lagos. Targeted rumors in Seoul. All according to plan. "There's no such thing as global order," he murmured. "Only controlled chaos." From behind him, Dr. Naveen asked, "What now?" Netanyahu didn't answer immediately. He walked to the central console, pressed a sequence of commands, and activated Phase 2. On the monitors, a new simulation loaded. Project Zenith. Its purpose? To eliminate every non-compliant actor on Earth using autonomous psychological warfare and neural targeting. He turned to Naveen. "Now, we begin the real war."